I don't care what anybody says. You're never going to stop learning. So any of these guys that pat themselves on the back that know everything, they're just foolish because it's always changing.
You want to feel the difference. And when that rod tip is too stiff, that very subtle, different pull is indiscernible from those little taps.
People will go up, they don't see bass popping, they make a couple casts, they leave. But they don't take the time to try and figure out what's going on under the surface.
They'll sit there, do 5 of those drifts and not catch one fish and just go. They'll just keep going to the next spot. Right. Not me, I'm staying there.
You have that moment with all sorts of species of fish where you realize you are not the one that's got the upper hand in the fight, and I realized that very quickly. That fish, it took off, it dug my rod tip right into the water.
Hello and welcome to the Salt Strong live stream and podcast. My name is Rich Natoli. I am the regular host of this show and a Salt Strong coach. And I'm joined, as always, by the very lovely, very talented Ed Gobo, owner of Captain Hank's Tackle. Ed, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm counting down the days till I'm in sunny Florida.
Yeah, we've got a lot of viewers that are already down in Florida. They live down in Florida, and you just can't wait to get down there. And you're going to be down there for, what, a week?
Yeah, about a week. We're going to start driving down Saturday morning, so hopefully get there. I'll probably crash somewhere in Carolinas overnight and then get down there in the afternoon. So
very nice.
Do some fishing.
I'll be holding down the fort up in the mid-Atlantic. I'll be out there on the striped bass, and I will do my best to make you jealous of your home while you're down in Florida. I'm not saying I can do it, but I'm going to try it.
I'm going to send you pictures of snook and redfish. So
yeah, well, grab that snook and grab an overslot snook, and I'm going to be in the car driving down to meet you.
That's the goal. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure your wife would love that. It's this random fat dude showing up on the on the doorstep.
She'd be happy. We're allowed to have 2 guests at the Airbnb, so you guys can come down.
No, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that would be.
Fly into Tampa. I'll pick you up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, be careful what you offer.
Come on down.
So this one, we're going to jump really quickly into this one. Mainly because we're going to try to keep it a little bit shorter tonight, but we've had some really awesome guests on in the past. Most recently, one of the bigger name guys that came on was Joe Cermelli from Meat Eater and Cut and Retie podcast. And Joe has been, he's been all over the place. Everybody, editor of this magazine, that magazine, everything in the world. Well, we got another guy with a resume. Another guy who likes to go fishing and likes to make a really good living off of it, and everybody's seen him. So tonight, everybody, we have Nick Honachefsky on. If you have seen Saltwater Underground, or I should say, if you haven't seen Saltwater Underground, you're missing out. It is awesome. It is a great show to watch. So he's the host of that. Guy Harvey Magazine. He's editor, field editor for Saltwater Sportsman, Fisherman on the Water. He's all over the place. So it's kind of like with Joe, I kind of feel silly saying it because it's funny with this audience, you like saltwater fishing. So, the
man needs no introduction.
Right. Exactly. So we're not going to keep going on that. We're just going to jump right in. We're going to bring on to the stream right now, Nick Honachefsky. Nick, welcome to the stream.
What's up, guys? Thanks for that glorious intro.
Welcome.
It's funny. There's certain people, most people in the world, you want to give a really solid introduction. And it's like, but then there's some where it's like, okay, you guys already know who it is. It's like doing a 10-minute introduction of John Skinner. It's like, everyone's like, yeah, we get it, Rich. We get it. Yeah, we know. So welcome. It's good. It's good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me too.
Yeah. So maybe there. So I'll tell you this right now, Nick. We actually do have people that watch from all over the country and all over the world. We have regulars. Actually, Australia. We have a decent following of people in Australia. So maybe there are some people that don't know a lot about you or haven't been introduced to your work. Do you want to talk a little bit about Saltwater Underground and give people a little bit of a background on what that is and where they can find it?
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, obviously, I'm Nick over here, and I've been in the professional side of the media industry and sport fishing for 25 years now. I can't believe it. When I was 23 is when I got into the industry, and I've worked for all the big mags. I was managing editor at Saltwater Sportsman for a little while. Right for Field and Stream, Outdoor Life. All the magazines, Guy Harvey, The Fisherman on the Water, and whatnot. But I used to actually hosted a television show on World Fishing Network. Some of your viewers might remember hooking up with Nick and Mariko. It was a great show with Mariko Azumi. That was an awesome show. And then I hosted Sport Fishing TV on NBC Sports. I don't even know if NBC is around anymore. I'm not sure. But I decided to go out on my own and do my own television show just because I saw other television shows, and I respect all the guys in the television industry. I'm good friends with Flip Pallet, Carter Andrews, all the boys. But there was no television show that was based in the Northeast United States. And as you guys know, Rich and Ed, like Jersey fishing, I'm from New Jersey, and I think both you guys are too. Our fishing is exemplary up here, But the more important point is that no one's ever been really into like the East Coast, like the Northeast and the New England coast fishing. So I wanted to bring that to light. So thus, I started Saltwater Underground. We're heading into season 4 right now. And for the viewers that haven't seen me yet, I run on Discovery Channel in July, okay? And then Sportsman's Channel is always the first quarter of every year that I run. We just finished our run. And all the reruns go on Waypoint TV, which are going to start on April 8th coming up. Or you can see the videos on my YouTube channel, Saltwater Underground at Nick Honachefsky. And as well, follow me on Instagram at Nick Honachefsky. You can see all the updates and all that. But that's the whole gist of the show, is that I wanted to show a different lifestyle that people aren't used to seeing on television for the fishing industry.
It's a lot different, and we all grew up watching all those shows. It's always down in Florida. You'd think that that's the only place where you can catch fish, and I love your point, Nick, that New Jersey has incredible fishing, and for people that aren't from or don't fish New Jersey, if you would just go by the magazines and by most of the shows, you would think it's just offshore. You have to head out and get tuna, and that's it. Maybe every once in a while you can get a wahoo, but it's really tuna, and you have to go out to the canyons for that. And that's not how it is at all. It is for people that haven't fished here. And I would say it's also the same. You look at areas in Maryland and Virginia, it's the same thing there.
Whole East Coast. Yep.
We've got marshes that, I think Cermelli had said, you'd think you were down in South Carolina marshes, and when you're in the backwaters in our marshes, and you have that type of a ecosystem back there with weakfish all over the place. You can even get the specks up in there, bluefish, striped bass. I mean, it is a thriving fishery if you know how to fish it.
For sure.
And you're not afraid to get muddy.
Right.
Like you guys are talking right now, like about the thriving fishery. Well, striped bass right now up in the springtime here. I'm actually writing an article. I won't disclose the magazine right now, but New Jersey is the new mecca for striped bass. I love my Montauk boys. I fish Montauk. I fish all, the New England states. New Jersey flat out is the new mecca for striper fishing. And I can document that for the last 10 to 12 years for sure. And in fact, like I'm so tired right now. I literally fished till 2:30 a.m. and I had to go to bed so I could wake up and go fishing at 7 a.m. again. I just had to get some sleep. I've been fishing around the clock for like 36 hours now, and just slamming stripers. And so, I'm mostly catch and release, 99.9%. So just releasing bass, in the river systems, in the big bays, and everywhere in Jersey. And it's starting to fire right now as we're speaking. Checking my logbooks, this is like 2 weeks earlier than the true, run really should be coming. And It's just, once again, another reason Jersey fishing is just firing in the new mecca.
I agree. And
you heard it here first.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Your nickname is Night Shift Nick, right? So pulling the night shift.
About that.
I'm not surprised that you're out there twice in the in a few hours.
So I had so many fish today between 10 a.m. and noon. In the middle of the daytime, I released 29 straight bass in almost 2 hours today, all between 24 inches and maybe 39, 41 inches, roughly, something like that. Middle of the morning, not even like early or late night shift. It's all about tide right now. So if you're
That's crazy.
hitting that tide at nighttime and it's producing, do the same thing during the day and those fish will be biting. So
That's crazy.
Pro tip.
And the funny thing is the season hasn't started yet.
that's
I mean,
what I mean. You would think, yeah.
we still have what, a month and a half of I mean, it's literally just the start, and
Yeah.
we're already seeing numbers and sizes like that all over the place. But your point about it being the mecca of striped bass, I 100% agree with you. I've been calling the Raritan Bay the best spot to hit striped bass on the entire East Coast. I don't care where you point.
Absolutely.
It is literally the best, but it didn't used to be. It used to be down. I think, you look up near the canal, but you also look down at Delaware Bay. That's dead as
Right.
compared to Raritan. There's still fish there, but it is just amazing what you're seeing out there. And I was seeing reports today. It's nice striped bass, keeper size, so up to 38 being caught in the surf today. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. Starting to fire early,
yeah, well, I'll be out there tomorrow hoping to duplicate your feat today
Yeah.
in a different area. But yeah, I'll be somewhere in New Jersey fishing
Yeah.
for them. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you're out there for striped bass. Were you doing that for a show or is that for fun today?
Oh, it's always for fun, whether I'm filming or not. You know what I
Right.
mean? I'm always there, number one. And that's kind of like my ethos with Saltwater Underground is that, and this is just a personal thing for me, is like, I don't really agree with people competing. Who got this fish? Oh, that's a small fish. Oh, you got that on bait. Oh, you got that on a plug. It's like fishing's fishing, man. I mean, that's the way I've always been, and the way that my ethos is when it comes to fishing with friends or strangers. It's like building a community, and that I think that permeates throughout Saltwater Underground too. And I don't mean to just bring it back to Saltwater Underground because it's you asked me like, am I doing it for fun or whatever?
Right.
That's what I do. You know what I mean? That's what everybody should do. You shouldn't do it to like, feel like you have to compete with someone. I mean, leave that stuff at the office, leave it at your work, whatever it is. Go out and have fun with it, Go out and explore on your own. If you're not fishing with your friends, I can't believe you. I can't believe in the last week how many new friends that I met today just fishing, and just sharing a plug. Oh, the Savage Gear popper's working or whatever. Here, take this off my line. I've already caught like 20 of them. So here, try this, and all of a sudden they're hooked up, and then you make lifelong friendships. But
Right.
That's the whole point of fishing, is what I believe. I really do. I mean, obviously catching fish is awesome. If you want to take home, fillets, whether it's stripers, fluke, tuna, as long as you're within the limits and the laws, feel free. You know what I mean? I love cooking and eating fish, but 99% of the fish I catch, I usually release, whether it's stripers or fluke or blackfish. I just love the being out there and fishing, the joy that it brings me and the joy that it gives to a community of, a social community.
Yeah, I think you're speaking our language there. I don't think I bring a stringer on every trip, but I think it's just because I like having the stringer, and I rarely use it. As a matter of fact, I lost it.
I was going to say you lost it on the last trip.
I lost it. Well, I lost it early in the fall, and I just got one. I just got a new one, so I'm putting that on. Yeah, I didn't even realize I lost a lot of white perch on that. Yeah.
Stringers like from trout fishing when I was growing up and all that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I have one of the what are they? The spear fishing stringers. So it's like that big metal hoop, something that
like the big the metal hoops that have like 6 or 7 of them. And you put your trout on. I remember I grew up on Spruce Run Reservoir.
Yeah.
We used to find them like along the banks of the river or whatever, and we take them home as kids and be like, "Oh, I got a new stringer. Oh, check this thing out."
Yeah, I should get one of those. That would be hilarious. Mine is just one big clip. It's just one big hoop that you put the fish on. Yeah, it's awesome. But
it's like a giant snap swivel.
It's a giant. Yeah, it is. It's a giant snap swivel. But
that's cool.
I'm always nervous though, because I tend to leave fish on there. So I really use it for fluke, because I will keep fluke for dinner, and I tend to bleed them and forget. And they're just hanging off in that warm water in the summer. And the next thing you know, there's a shark hitting it. And
I was going to say, don't be doing that down south in Florida and North Carolina and all that.
No, well, I do it too often. I can't tell you how many videos I got of sharks come swiping at the fluke on, dinner. But so far I haven't lost one. And so far what I'm worried about is it's going to actually grab the hoop and it's going to just pull enough to tip me over and dump my kayak in the middle of the water. But
go for a shark ride.
Well, yeah, but if that happens, how hilarious would that be? That would be the best video ever.
I would laugh for
right?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as the GoPro doesn't come off my head, everything else.
Right. Yeah.
I should be all right. All right. So all right. So you were out today for striped bass, but we got other seasons coming up. What is it in the spring that you actually look forward to? Is it the striped bass, or are you looking multi-species? What does your typical spring look like?
Well, obviously, starting off, I'm always March 1st trying to catch that first bass wherever it is, whether I'm like throwing bloodworms or usually bloodworms in the Northeast here are the first baits that the bass will hit, like in the back bay waters when it's warming up on the mud flats. But, our blackfish season just opened April 1st and it's only open for the whole month. So normally I would have already been targeting those fish, but we had 2 trips already weathered out and it's April 3rd now. So I had the last 2 days weathered out. To go number one on one of the party boats out of Belmar, the Ocean Explorer, I was supposed to go on, but I was also going to fish certain areas from the shoreline where I know that there's fish according to my logbooks. 25 years of logbooks, I know at least I'd like to have an idea where the fish are going to be at the opening day. So
yeah,
so blackfish would be this month. We have an early fluke season up here in Jersey. May 2nd is one of the earliest season openers we've had in a while, since like the 90s, I think, or something, late 90s, early 2000s. So those fluke are going to be stacked in the backwaters right now. And we're talking like the breeder fish, like this is your chance to get like a true doormat, like 10-pound plus fish. But generally 5 to 8 pounders are going to be stacking in those backwaters with Ed, with those bucktails you were showing me earlier, man. Those little light 3/8 to half-ounce bucktails that you make at Hank's Tackle, they're going to be killer for these fluke in the bay systems. All the way up from Raritan Bay down through Cape May, but generally the shallow bays like Barnegat Bay, Sea Isle City and Ludlam's Bay, the Ocean City backwaters, Manasquan River type places. No, there's no secret spots. It's where those fish are going to be.
right.
On those flat channels, and then it goes. There's so much to do, and then May comes, and tuna, are already being caught, or at least my buddy got one of them out in the canyons, and those fish should really start coming in true to form and by mid-May. But they're going to be here in April, but there's not enough people out targeting them. So then, you can go offshore for tuna and get that job done. And then we go right into the summer season, which is fluke, and then the fall. And like, I don't know, I don't got to tell you guys, but your listeners may want to know that the fall run for striped bass and the surf and the boats was absolutely biblical this year. I haven't seen it like this since 1998, and I've been fishing a long time. 98 was the last year that I saw it like this. I mean, I can't even get, how crazy it was with like 60, 70, 80 fish days. I mean, in the surf, the boat was like,
you didn't need it.
You would just lose count of fish. I mean, there's no sense in even like trying to fish. I mean, you just catch them like nonstop. But yeah, that takes you kind of through the year, and then wintertime is like cod fishing, pollock fishing, ling fishing if they're around. Like I'll fish around, and if there's ice, I'll go ice fishing. I'm not opposed to freshwater fishing. I grew up on that. So I'll do my, I'm going for opening day of trout this Saturday. Always make that, and go do a little smallmouth fishing too. So there's always fishing to be had, is what answer your question, I guess.
Yeah, you've got it all. Now, what about here's a question for you. Let me get it here. Here's one species. What about black drum? Are you going to be targeting those at all this year?
What's funny is it's crabbing and fishing. That's my buddy Benji. Hey Benj, what's up, dude? He had a nice bass today too. If you check his thing out.
Nice hot.
What's it called? So drum fishing. I'll give you a tiny little bit of history. I think Benji, or crabbing and fishing over there, would know that too. Delaware Bay, the black drum migration comes into Delaware Bay, and it's the largest breeding ground for black drum basically on the planet in Delaware Bay. Now, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we would go drum fishing, and literally you'd catch 30, 35, 40 drum on a trip, right? And that's changed. And one of the reasons is people used to keep like all these 50, 60, 70, 80, 90-pound black drum and just stack them at the dock, and they're not really good eating fish. So I think that put a big dent in the fishery by 2004, 2005, but there are still plenty of drum in Delaware Bay. So answer the question, Benj, is that April, May, and early June are the best times to fish for black drum in the Delaware Bay, around the full and the new moons, okay? Because that heavy water is bringing in those fish to spawn, and usually 3 days before and 3 days after a fuller new moon in April, May, and June will bring those fish in. And usually it's still a clam bite. You anchor up, you put 3 or 4 or 5 rods out and put fish finder slides with circle hooks, like 10-aught, 12-aught circle hooks on there. And we call them surf turkeys back in the day down in Delaware Bay, these big old surf clams that are huge. And you gobble them up on the hook, tie them off if you want, get a clam slick going, and then you just wait to hear the telltale signs of the drum. It's like, boom, 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 and you can feel the vibrations under the boat. So mark my words, they'll be there if you're going to target them,
It used to be, so we were out there in the Delaware Bay fishing at the same time, like in the 90s. It was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to your point, you'd hear the drums, but it was like, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy how many, it was all over the place. You could feel it through the deck of the boat, like you said.
That's got to be something to experience, man. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's eerie at night, actually. When you go out there the first time, you start hearing it, it's quiet, and then all of a sudden it's all around you. You're like, well, why aren't I getting bit?
Yeah, it's a nighttime bite too, like you mentioned, Rich. It is nighttime. It's not necessarily during the day. We used to always fish at night for them,
Yep. And it is a good species to target from shore too. You can reach them from shore. They will come right, especially in the Delaware Bay. I mean, there's no waves. You can just go right down there, throw some clam on, throw out a few rods, and just hang out on the beach all night. And you have a really good chance of getting, a 60, 70 pound fish in there because they're all over the place. And, but man, I do miss the 90s. The 90s was when I really did a lot of the black drum fishing that I've ever done in my life. I did most of it in the 90s, and it was crazy. It was crazy. Those fish were huge.
What's funny is for your southern listeners, when they get black drum down there, they're like, maybe, puppy drum, like 15 to maybe up to like 45, 50 pounds tops. But like literally up here, we call them Clydesdales, the big boomers. The world record and the New Jersey state record was taken in Delaware Bay. I think it's 113 or 114 pounds. But catching 80 to 90 pound drum was not unusual, back then. But it's cool seeing the Florida guys and like Merritt Island and all that area, and like, the North Carolina and South Carolina guys targeting black drum down there because they put up a hell of a fight,
Yeah.
And, obviously the meat's not that good eating, but they put up a heck of a fight on jigs or light, not even light tackle, heavy tackle. They'll give you a good fight. And I'm just glad to see that people are recognizing them as a hard fighting sport fish now.
Yeah, I always love it when people say, well, it's like hauling in a garbage can. No, it's not.
No way. No.
Anyone who says that, I immediately
I've heard that.
Yeah, I immediately look at them.
People that hate Bluefish, it's like,
right.
Oh man, how can you? I mean, you're getting a bend in the rod with the best fight in like light tackle. It's like I don't know, but I hear you.
That's how you know that they haven't caught a big one before, because they will slow down. I mean, they do get tired. I mean, the big ones they're big fish, but a striped bass will get tired quick when it's a big one. It'll still have that power, but it won't have those real long, prolonged runs over and over again. It won't be whipping around like a redfish, but
right.
But it is a great fight. It's not just, one thing is the like the sand tiger. Did you ever catch a sand tiger?
For sure.
They don't have the best fight. They give up real quick for being the meanest looking shark in the world. And people say it's like the sand tiger. No, it's not. It is not. Go ahead. Go out there and catch one.
They got those big broom tails for a reason to power themselves away. And they got those big old bulky shoulders. You know what I mean? So, you're fighting like a linebacker,
Yeah. I think they're a lot of fun. I do agree. I'm not the biggest fan of the taste of the larger ones. I do actually think there is a difference in taste if you go with the smaller guys. So if you look at something that's like a 7 to 12 pounder,
It's a nice fish.
I think those. First of all, those are great fights on those. They really put up a fight. But I think that those taste pretty good. I don't know why. It's just a different flavor to me. Well, and less worms too.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not a fan of the worms. All right, so that was Ben's question. That's a good question. We talk about it every year, Ed and I, about going out for these black drum in the Delaware Bay.
Do they still run party boats?
Yeah.
I think a couple of them still do out there for sure, and the charter boats will still run them too.
Yeah, Fortescue.
Like
I think what is it? The Miss Fortescue or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
I think
you guys
still
also. You also know that you can get them, like you mentioned earlier, Rich. You can get them from the shoreline. Brigantine Beach, bar none, is the best place to catch your black drum from the beach. You know, if any of your listeners out there want to target black drum from the surf, go to Brigantine Beach, April, May, and June.
That's a great tip. And that's also one of the areas that you want to go and look for the redfish, because they will eventually show up in that area for some odd reason.
Among other places, but we're keeping that quiet up here.
Yes. That's one of you can't hide the Brigantine one, because anytime anything's hauled in Brigantine, everybody knows about it 3 minutes later from certain people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if a car gets stuck in the sand, or if a fish is caught, it's online immediately.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, which I think is great. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, so a little bit of the black drum. Let me ask you this though, Nick. So one of the first things that I saw about you that I really liked was weak fishing. Are you doing any of that anymore?
Well, sure. When the Weakfish show up, and once again, I hate to say this, but bring it back to the late 90s to like maybe 2004, 2005. Every April, we would go and target tide runner weakfish, right? And tide runners meaning 10-pound plus weakfish. And many of your listeners who weakfish up in the Northeast may be like, oh, yeah, 10 pound. Where's that happening? Used to happen a lot, you know? Barnegat Bay, Sea Isle City down there. We use little 4 3/4 finesse fish, bubble gum, or Arkansas shiner colors. And we would literally go right before sun up, and the bite would be done right after the sun came up. But we would go target them and drip the channels for weakfish. But the cool the is, okay, and everyone says the permeating thought is that they're a cyclical fish. But as you guys know, it's like weak fishing has been like a dearth of action, over the last decade, maybe even 15 years. Yeah. But we do have good years where it's happening again. Case in point, last year we filmed an episode chasing the elusive Barnegat Bay weakfish, right? We went back there, and I used to fish with one of my good best friends, Captain Dave DeGennaro on the High Flyer, who's an old school salt. His family has been fishing that bay for so long. He taught me how to grass shrimp for weakfish back there. And dang if the weakfish didn't cooperate with us the day that we were out there in Barnegat Bay. We must have caught 80, 90 weakfish from, spike size, which is like, 8 inches, to the keeper size in Jersey is 14 inches or 15 inches now, something like that. But we actually had 2 to 4 and 5 pounders again, which was awesome seeing them around again, because we hadn't seen them like that in maybe 8, 9 years. But, and let me add this too, for anyone listening out there, I've never written about this or talked about it yet. Last June, I'm casting for bass in the surf with black bomber lures, right? Nighttime, 10, 11 at night, and I'm reeling in, boom, catch like a nice fish, like a nice bass. I'm talking like 40-inch fish, 42-inch fish. Boom, another one, boom, another one. Then all of a sudden I start getting these little hits, like boom, on my black bomber, and I'm like, there's no way that these bass are tail slapping that thing. I'm like, and my primal brain from the old school days kicked in. I go, man, that feels like weakfish hitting that thing. So I slowed down my black bomber like to a bitter crawl, barely even moving it. And I felt the hit, and I let it sit there for a second. And then I set the hook, and I loosened my drag, fought these fish in. I'm telling you right now, every one of these fish was 34 to 37-inch weakfish. Wow. All 10, 14-pound fish in the surf last June. So that's awesome. I have my days that I fished, and I have it written down in my logbook. And you better believe I'm fishing for 6-7 days straight around that area to try and catch those tide runners again. I have never seen them like that in 20 years.
We had a good run. It wasn't last year. It was the year before, 2021. we had a good run in Atlantic City. We were catching a bunch. Not
That was
10,
like
12
the jetty
pounders.
and all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, generally they've nowadays they're more of a southern fish, but back in the old days, like Raritan Bay, like Flynn's Knoll, between the channels, Romer Shoal used to be the weakfish in cap. That's where the world record was taken by Richie Swistak. It was in Great Kills Harbor back then, But yeah, you're seeing any weakfish that you're seeing in Jersey, like you said, Ed, has really been the larger fish are down south, like Avalon, like you
Yes.
said, Ocean City, around the bridges and all that.
But they're moving. They're moving up, which is good. I'm now at the point where I can go out and say I'm targeting weakfish, and
Right.
I'm going to end up catching weakfish. It doesn't mean I can't get skunked, but it's not a reach anymore. It used to be a reach. 10 years ago, even 5 or 6 years ago, you'd be lucky if you got that little spike at 10, 12, 13 inches. And now it's realistic to go out there, and if you're focusing on them for an afternoon typically it's morning. If you're fishing for them in the morning or the late afternoon or evening, you're going to pull out 4 or 5 that are 18 to 23, in the backwaters. And man, it's been a long time. I don't remember. 12 pounders, 34, 35. Those are some nice ones. I remember, schools of, 28 to 32s that used to just rip through the backwaters. And it's a story
before my time.
Yeah. It's a story that I tell, I've told before, and Ed's definitely heard it. And some of the people watching have heard it, but we used to have a house in Stone Harbor right on the bay, and we'd get up to go fishing, but my grandfather always wanted breakfast first. So we'd sit down, we'd eat donuts from Donna's, and we'd, cinnamon buns and all this unhealthy stuff and cereal. And then we'd go load up the boat, but it was just getting light. And just as it would get light, you're sitting there, and all of a sudden the weakfish start going up the channel. And
Right.
I'd be sent out as the kid to jump on the boat and I'd go out and, catch a couple of big guys, bring them back in. And my dad would clean it. We'd get on the boat and we'd go out fishing for the day, but we already had dinner. We caught dinner, but it was easy. It was easy.
Weakfish and eggs for breakfast and champions, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But those days are not back though. I miss those days, and I hope that we can get back there. But man, with the number of seals and dolphins, and unless the offshore wind keeps going, maybe they'll cut back on the dolphins.
Our lovely governor's taking care of that.
Yeah. New Jersey's doing their best to help the weakfish by killing all the dolphins and whales.
Bunch of jackasses.
Maybe we should have Nick come on when we talk about this.
Oh, you want me to get bitter about stuff? We'll get into that. Today's a fun day.
I like the happy Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to have a discussion with some folks that are working to educate the public on the wind farms. But that is not a topic for today, because then we all have to stop smiling and talk about serious things. And I'm just not a fan of that right now.
All right. Well, since I poked that bear, let's shift some gears. How about you want to touch on your surf tournament?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks. I didn't realize you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, why not?
So I run a Barrier Island beach brawl. It's going to be my 5th year. And it's a surf fishing tournament, right? That happens every Columbus Day in New Jersey, around the Barrier Island, which is from Manasquan Inlet down to Barnegat Inlet. And the reason why I wanted to do this tournament wasn't for reasons or selfish, like, oh, I just want to run a tournament. It's because when I grew up, there used to be like this camaraderie with fishermen, right? Okay. And so you went into a tackle shop, you talk to the owner. Someone comes in, you talk to them, you see a picture on the wall, you're like, oh, that guy caught that. There used to be like a giving and sharing in fishing, right? And I'm not saying it single-handedly changed because of this, but social media has, obviously we can go into a million different directions, but it's made people less social. You know what I mean? In a real sense. So I wanted to create a tournament where people can see each other face to face and have a blast and fish, and enjoy their time, meet new friends, meet people that they've corresponded with online through Facebook for 15 years that they may never met in person before, but most importantly, get kids involved and get kids excited about fishing. and anyone who may never have fished before to get them excited about fishing. So the Barrier Island Beach Brawl, like I said, is every Columbus Day weekend. I partner up with every single manufacturer in the industry, and I'm so thankful that they donate all the products that they do. I'm talking everybody in the industry, from the biggest to the smallest names. We have $25,000 worth of free stuff that I give away without catching a fish, without, all you got to do is enter the tournament, because I didn't want to make a competitive tournament in the sense that everyone has to feel the need to like cheat or go for like big money. I do give away money too, and it's good money, but I never publicize that. I just want to know that, like, people know that when you enter the tournament, doesn't matter if you catch a fish or not, you're automatically, I just draw your name out of a hat, and I give like 150 bags of stuff away that has $25,000 worth of gear, all said and done, you know. But the point of the matter is it's an all species tournament too in Jersey at the time. That's legal. For striped bass, it's catch and release only. You don't even need to, it doesn't even have to be a legal fish. It could be a 13-inch bass. You take a photo and you immediately put it back in the water. I don't need you to, you know, measure it or weigh it or anything. Just, you know, you DM me the photo, so to prevent any mortality from stripers. But, you know, little false albacore, kingfish, blowfish, you know, bonito, blackfish, sheepshead, everything's involved in the tournament. So if you guys want to check it out, it'll be at saltwaterunderground.com when I start putting it up there, you know, next month or so. Thanks for asking about that.
I was so set to go to that last year, and then I got COVID. I was so excited.
I remember that. We were going to do that. Yeah. We should do it this year.
Yeah, I got sick. I was so disappointed. I was like, well, I can't show up and meet everybody and say hi to everybody being sick. It is one of those tournaments that is just, I love that you do it for fun. I love that there is the focus on the kids. I love that the focus is not on, you know, I don't know, it's a tournament, but the measuring contest with striped bass, it's like you catch when you're qualified. You know, you don't have to go and drag it up the sand and bread it and, you know, take 1,000 pictures and measure it and all that stuff. You just take it.
And the one picture you take, I put all those pictures, and you can catch 30 of them or catch one. I put all the pictures in a pot, and then I randomly draw them out, and there's 3 winners for the striped bass category, you know, just so your 13-inch bass could win you $1,000 rod and reel combo, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a great event. All right, Ed, I know you're looking at some questions in there because I'm looking at a few.
Yeah, we got
about 6 or 7 more minutes, so let's bang through some questions here.
If you also, Rich, if you want to go over a little bit, you can. I'm just telling you. I thought I was going to be able to hit the bridge tonight, but I don't have to do that. So
we'll see what we can do. So Adam's asking, Nick, are you a kayak guy?
I've fished in the kayaks, but I'm not. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a kayak guy. I've caught bass, redfish, what else in kayaks, you know, but I don't own one. I love the idea of kayak fishing because you can reach the, you know, from the beach and deploy and get out there and be right in the mix of all the bass that the surf casters can't get. And I love kayak fishing. I love the way, you know, the people are going out there and doing it and being able to access fisheries that, you know, that we can't get from the surf. You know what I mean? So, so answer your question, I have kayak fish, but I wouldn't say I'm a kayak guy.
We should get you out some more often. Rich and I primarily fish out of kayaks, so that's
I'm like an everything guy. If you put it in front of me, I'll jump in it or walk on it, whatever it takes. You know,
I was gonna say, I could see you fishing any platform that's in front of you as long as there's fish at the end.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Equal opportunity fisherman.
Yeah, let's make something happen this summer then.
For sure.
All right, moving on. MR Johnson, this was earlier. Since you primarily are catch and release, do you crush your barbs?
For striped bass, funny enough, and I'm being straight up honest with everybody. You know, at the beginning of the season, I just have my plugs that I have from the fall, so I'm immediately trying to hook and land that first fish, you know, because I want to have that on board. But after today and yesterday, all my barbs are going to be crushed now, you know, with my mag darters and stuff. I've caught so many bass, and I've caught enough bass right now where I'm satisfied, at least for tonight, you know, where I don't mind losing them anymore right now. So it doesn't matter to me. So yeah, generally I'll crush the barbs. If I have time, I will switch out the treble hooks to single sidewash hooks, you know. but I'm always like on the move so much. I barely ever have time to get my gear. You should see if I could just show you my room here, like the gear, it's like busted tackle, this and that. I just put the next thing on and I rock and roll. It's like I barely have time to like sit in the wintertime and like take care of my plugs and put new hooks on, and like the reels get a washing and that's all they get. You know what I mean? But I would crush the barbs on striped bass, especially with treble hooks, and I will be doing that. I appreciate that question too.
Cool. And here's KB. This one's a little out there. Any way to target Mahi from a kayak?
Yes, I actually did all the saltwater outdoor shows up here this spring. My one seminar I did was called Jersey Surf Exotics, right? Yeah. Which is like stuff you're not used to catching in Jersey from the beach, like bonito, sheep's head, cobia, stuff like that. But one of the species I mentioned was mahi. Now get this, for anyone that are kayak fishing, what I would do if I were you, late July, early August, all those mahi get pushed in on like the warm water, the warm water eddies that are in the canyons. But if you get a steady blow of like 1 to 2 to 3 northeast or straight east, it pushes those fish in even more and more. And you'll know that the reef sites that are close to shore, like if you're I don't know if KB is a Jersey guy or not, but like the Axel Carlson Reef, the Seagirt Reef, Barnegat Light Reef, the 2FB and Sea Isle City, all those mahi will come in and hang around the lobster pot high flyers, which are like 2-3 miles off the beach. If you can kayak out that far, and it's not really that far anyway, it's like straight bass fishing for the most part, work those high flyers and you'll find schools of mahi, usually like chicken size. Grasshopper is like 12, 13 inches to like chicken size, which are like 2 to 4 pounds, up to like gapper size, which could be up to 10-pound fish that hang around those lobster pot buoys. So just work flag to flag with your kayak and drift by it with small bucktails, like those 3/8 half-ounce white and pink or white and chartreuse bucktails with a Berkeley Gulp scented grub on the back, like 3 to 4 inch swimming mullet, and pop it back to you. And if you don't get them on the surface, let the bucktail drop down deeper, like 30, 40 foot, and you'll be able to pull them up because sometimes they're down on that pot line even more. But to answer your question, absolutely mahi from a kayak. We do it on the boats in the morning before we go fluke fishing. We go out, catch like enough mahi to put in the cooler, and then we go fluke fishing.
Yeah, a lot of people think that mahi are just offshore, right? So you got to go 25 miles, you got to go 30 miles, got to hit a couple 100 feet of water. And that is absolutely not the case at the right time of the year. They're not going to be there all year, but
July and August.
2FB is right there. I mean, it is paddle distance from the beach.
Yep.
And if you guys didn't get that, re-listen and take notes, because that's the nugget of the night.
For the mahi guys and kayak guys, figures the kayak guy says it's a nugget. Yep.
I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get a text from KB just saying, "So when are we going for mahi?"
Oh yeah, there you go.
And we'll have to go. We'll have to go soon. Well,
I've had guys catch them. Believe it or not, from the surf. If anyone's familiar with Point Pleasant area, the Fisherman's Supply Dock, these mahi came inside the Manasquan Inlet. My buddy Jason, who works at Fisherman's Supply, goes, dude, you got to get down here right now. I'm catching mahi off the dock. You won't believe it. I was like, I don't believe it. I went down there, and he was catching 2-3 pound mahi right off the gas dock. Those mahi went into the Manasquan River, went past the 35 bridge, and they went into the canal, which is almost like backwaters. Mahi in the backwaters. And that was a day insane. After like three winds, when we get that tropical blue-green, like 78, 79, 80 degree water that comes into Jersey, in the heat of the summertime.
That's crazy. That's 2 to 3 pound mahi in the canal.
It's awesome. It was insane. It was insane. It only happened that 1 year with that, but all it takes is 1 year because it can happen again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's bananas. Oh my God. I love that. And I love the fact that it was kept quiet.
Oh, I never wrote about it. I'll tell you that. I'm talking about it now because it was like 4 years ago. So
right.
But you can figure it out if you play. Like you said, Ed, the nugget is east winds, 78, 79, 80 degree water, and get that nice bluish green tropical stuff coming in, and those mahi push in.
Yeah. All right.
Good nugget.
to target them.
I'll give it a go. All right. Our good buddy Surf Fishing with Bayside Dave. What are your thoughts on the bigger bluefish?
What's up, Bayside Dave? Well, what thoughts meaning bigger bluefish returning.
Yeah.
So if anyone in Jersey remembers, like I would say 4 to 6 years ago, there was a 3-year stretch from 4 to 6 years ago where we had those absolute gorilla bluefish that came in the springtime and they never left. It was hands down the best back bay bluefishing I've ever had. And every day was just busting tackle. All the tackle shops made their millions, in like the springtime on these fish. And legitimate, like the southern people don't, maybe North Carolina guys do, but legitimate 18 to 23 pound bluefish just stacked in the backwaters, like a 10 to 14 pounder was like a baby, So thoughts on them returning. So bluefish have been interesting. Once again, like anyone remembers, up until like 2008, 2009, 2010, party boats would always do night bluefishing trips. That was a rite of passage growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, right? You go on night bluefish trips, but they haven't been in like the usual areas. That one year when all those bluefish came in, there was a prevalence of big adult bunker that were in the back bays that moved in, and it not only brought those bluefish through the inlet areas, but kept them back there for the entire spring. So my thoughts on bigger bluefish returning are this. I think this year could be a year that they can come back like that, because number one, we've had the warmest winter I can remember on in history for me, or recent history, I think the bunker are already here, the big bunker are. It's all a matter if we get that migration coming in and all those bluefish that are coming up the coast kind of steer their way towards the inlet areas, because even though in Jersey we may not have had them like thick as thieves in the last 3 or 4 years, they sure as anything been getting up in Long Island. So those fish are up there. They're just bypassing us over the coast past the mud hole area, like 15, 20 miles off, and going straight up to Montauk in Long Island Sound. Those are the fish we're used to getting. So if we get like an east wind pushing them in with the bunker early, like a nice nor'easter, second, third week of April, we could see them returning like that. Obviously through the summertime, you can always catch the cocktail and Taylor blues, like the 1 to 3 pounders in the surf all the time throughout the summer.
I love catching those, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, great eating too.
Yeah, I love bluefish no matter what size. But I love catching the small ones, and people make fun of me for it. And I'm like, I don't care what you say. I love catching them, so I'm just going to keep doing it. Yeah. I'll burn $30 worth of soft plastics if that's all I have on me, just to have a day of catching them.
Exactly.
I'll tell you this though. 2 years ago in April, I was out. I think it was April, maybe it was early May, but that was when New York opened before New Jersey. So I was out fluke fishing out of Staten Island, and I couldn't keep fluke fishing because I caught a couple, and then the bass were going nuts. So I used my fluke gear to go for striped bass, and ended up pulling in a couple of bluefish, but the big one was over 36 inches. So I mean, it was a big one, and it was right on the shipping lane in the Raritan Bay, right off of Staten Island, right on the ledge. So, and I targeted it by, I'm watching all these miles of bunker go by, and I just tossed out about 20 yards off to the side and worked the bait off to the side. And that's where the bluefish are. The striped bass were on the inside, the bluefish were underneath and on the sides. And that's how I got it. And it was a great fight. So they're still there, but I'm with you. I think you're right. I think they've been missing us, and they've just been hitting north, and Montauk and Long Island Sound are getting the benefit of it, because they've had some huge slammer blue runs, gator blue runs over the past couple of years in Long Island.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Hopefully we'll keep them here and magnetize them to our bays again, because I miss that, man. That's so much fun, man. Like, for me personally, but then taking people out that have never fished before, getting them on bluefish, they're hooked for life once they catch a big blue,
Yeah, I always liked them for, again, back in the 90s, early 2000s, they were my favorite fish to go out fly fishing for, because
Oh,
they were
nice. Yeah.
predictable. It's a good way to practice, and you just go out into a flat. And I would take a kayak out, but it was a kayak back then that I couldn't stand in. So I would just tie it to myself.
Cobra kayaks. Or
Yeah, and I
something.
just start walking with the fly rod and just start catching bluefish, and it was so much fun. So,
Oh yeah.
but there's nothing like getting a 30+ inch bluefish in the backwaters. That's just
Absolutely.
oh, it's so much fun. I love it.
So I'm wondering, because like everybody keeps talking about how fish are skirting the coast. It seemed like that all started with when Hurricane Sandy came through and changed the whole coast. You know what I mean? It changed that whole coastline. So I'm wondering if now it's starting to get back. It's been what, almost 10 years now. So it's starting to get back to the way it used to be. So I'm wondering if that's why we're seeing these bigger runs of striper and bigger weakfish and stuff.
I mean, there's a bunch of factors, that being one of them, I'm sure, too, and like beach replenishment, and now everything's kind of settled in again. The last beach replenishment, at least we had on the Barrier Island, was like 5 years ago. I'm seeing clams and mussels and conch and like, all washing up now, which we hadn't seen in 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting that ecosystem evolving again, when it was buried like asphalt before with beach replenishment. But likewise, too, it all kind of has to depend on bait fish and their migration, too, obviously you guys know, I'm sure you know that, like, New Jersey, if you want to say New Jersey did one good thing in management, they got rid of the bunker boats, in Jersey waters, all the Chesapeake Omega-3 bunker boats. So when we got rid of them, look what happens. All the bunkers along our shore, now we are the whale watching capital of the United States, basically, right now,
Right.
And striped bass fishing has just bounced back tenfold, I think that had a lot to do with it. And, like you said, Ed, too, maybe like, after Sandy, it might have restructured a bit, but everything's coming back to its normal ecosystem pattern again,
Yeah. It's just what I've been seeing over the past few years.
I think it's mainly the pumping of the sand. Like Townsend Inlet, they've ruined that again. They just keep pumping and pumping on the same beach. It lasts about 14 minutes before the next nor'easter comes through, and all that's gone. I guess it's a good way to keep the Army Corps of Engineers employed.
Right.
But,
some politicians are getting paid, right, for their contracts. So
yeah, but it's destroying it, and you just look. So Townsend Inlet this year for me is out. It's going to be ruined for quite a while. It's like Jim Hutchinson said. He's like, you go out there and you have this nice ecosystem that has established itself over the past 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And now all of a sudden you're just taking all that sand and throwing it somewhere else.
Just paving over it,
Yeah, it's just gone. It's destroyed. And, it's, I don't know. So that's what I think it is. I think Sandy did do a big hit on it, though, because the amount of sand that was moved from that was insane.
Yeah,
so
it moved everything,
including everything. House. Yeah, yep. There. You know how many houses are out there right now? How many Ferris wheels that are out?
Well, believe me, I'm very familiar with it. Still haven't found mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I lost everything in Sandy. I got out with my life, dude.
Oh, I didn't realize
everything. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
awful.
That's a story for another time. 10 years later, I'm still not rebuilt. How about that, huh? How's that for Jersey working for you, right?
So
10 years later, still not rebuilt.
Sadly, that does not surprise me, and that's a shame.
Yeah,
that is a shame.
It's crazy.
So we'll have to talk about that over some beers sometime.
You better believe it.
I remember I got off the island as Sandy was hitting on that day. I got my boat out, luckily, just in time. Nick, it was in Stone Harbor. I pulled the boat. I drove it up the ramp and across the parking lot and onto the trailer. So the truck didn't go anywhere near the ramp. I just drove the boat with the outboard down. Yeah, that's how bad it was. We just barely got out of there. So I'm sorry to hear that you lost the house. There was way too many houses were wrecked on that.
For sure.
So, all right, Ed, is there one more question in there? Because we're not going to have
one more. It's more of a kudos than a question.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, Creek Slayers. Him and his son entered the Barrier Island tournament for the first time last year. They met you, Nick, and said you were very great. Gave him some advice on where to fish, and his son caught a 45-inch bass. So
Right there. I don't lie, right? I tell you where to go, you catch fish, right?
There you
No,
go.
no, but well, thank you, Creek Slayers. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys caught a bunch of fish. Actually, for this past Mary Island Beach tournament, the 4th annual, dude, we hit it right. Let me tell you this right now. Normally we'll weigh in, or we'll check in like 18 to 20 bass because it's usually early October, so it's not. Historically, it used to be when bass were around, but not necessarily in the last 15 years. This year, we had pictures of released 53 striped bass. And I'm telling you right now, every single one of those bass that was like caught with a photo, at least 95% of them were all 25 to 48 pound fish. We got the first wave of monster cow bass, and that guy's not joking when he says 45-inch fish. I couldn't believe it. And I'm sitting there at the weigh station, or the beach roll station, being like, I gotta go fish. And I couldn't fish because I had to sit there at the station hearing about all these monster bass blowing up on like poppers and like plugs. And I'm like, oh man, I just want to get out there and fish. But I was so glad that the bass cooperated.
So what's funny, Nick, you probably don't realize this because you were there, but it was your tournament that validated the kickoff of the fall run for.
Was absolutely no doubt.
People didn't believe it. Somebody says, "Oh, you see it on social media all the time. Oh, I caught this today," and everyone's like, "No, you didn't. No, you didn't."
Yeah.
There was one that somebody said that they caught a 40-some inch down in Fortescue today, and everyone's getting on this guy. I don't know if it's true or not, but I remember last year, here I am at home sick, and I'm looking at reports. I caught this, I caught that, and everyone's saying, "No, you didn't." And then we look at the tournament results. And who was saying this? Ed? There was somebody that was on that was saying this, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, it's up to 23 bass in one day. It's up to 36 bass. It's up to 40.
It just kept going.
They're like, this is real. The run started, and that's where everybody then grabbed their rods and ran down to the beach.
Exactly. It was crazy. My tournament's only like 2 days, so it's like, obviously, if you're there, you might be on the tail end of it by the time you read the report and stuff like that. But that totally kicked it off. And think about this: that first wave of big fish like that. Look at the epic, like, absolute, like I said, biblical, legendary, whatever you want to call it, run that happened after that. Imagine if we see that again happening, you know what I mean, for this year, because we're going through like a nice little period right now. Like, we get like 3 or 4 years of a steady pattern, and then it goes into a worse pattern or a different pattern. I think we're at the beginning, going into like inning number 3 or 4 of a steady pattern of nice fish for the next 2 or 3 years,
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. I think surf fishermen are going to be very happy and catch a lot of fish over the next couple of years.
I agree. I really do.
Absolutely. So
let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope. And Nick, I'll make it to your tournament this year. I won't get COVID again.
I got a bag of free stuff for you, brother.
Yeah, I'll be out there, and I'll be sitting there looking at the reports coming in with you. It'll be fun. It'll definitely be fun. All right. So listen, we are at the hour. So Nick, I do want to thank you for coming by. You are one of the folks that people request to have on quite often. So it was nice when we made contact with each other and got this set up. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you.
I appreciate it, guys. I love the Salt Strong guys. Remember when Joe and Luke started this whole thing and ICAST, we all this conversation, what they were going to do. And love those boys, man. Good people. You guys, Rich and Ed, are great people, man. So I just want to say thank you very much for having me here today.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Definitely. And everybody, if you haven't seen Nick on Saltwater Underground, you got to do it. If you ever go to a boat show, look for him. He's going to be he's going to have a booth almost every show that I've been to. Great to go up and talk to Nick at the shows, but also does a lot of these seminars in there as well. I was disappointed I didn't get to see your exotics this year.
I'll tell you all about it afterwards.
Yeah, I wanted to.
If anybody has questions too about anything you might have heard today or hear in the future on this when you're watching it, always hit me up at Nick Honachefsky at Instagram. I always get back to everybody with any questions that they have, even if it takes up a ton of time. I always make myself available to people. so they can, live and learn, and don't be afraid to contact me and ask questions.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We are going to announce the guest for next week later in the week. We're not 100% solidified on exactly who's coming on, but we have a pretty good idea. So look for that later this week, close to the weekend, probably Friday or Saturday. Ed, do you have anything you want to add before we go?
No. Next time you see me, I'll be broadcasting live from sunny Florida.
That's right.
Nice.
All right. I'll have to make sure that I catch a lot of fish so I can just keep throwing fish up on the screen. Of course, you'll be catching a lot as well. So everybody down in Florida, be careful. The lovely and talented Ed is heading down
Saltwater
south.
Underground coming Ed's way.
Nice.
There you go. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week then. Until next time, get out there, get on the water, get some tight lines.